Hey everybody, it's Chase with RAGBRAI-ready Bicycles, and I will be riding RAGBRAI this year on this bike in particular. This is our Priority Sauce, and I'm gonna show you what I've done to it and what I'm gonna put on it to make the 6 days of RAGBRAI a little bit more bearable. Probably noticed there's a couple different things about this bike than what comes stock on it. Obviously, we've got some aesthetic changes, but functionality, this bike works a little bit differently. So we have a front and rear rack on the bike installed for carrying a lot of stuff. So you don't need front and rear racks. You can obviously just do bike packing bags throughout, but the one nice thing about racks is you can kind of overload if you're just looking to have more stuff on you. Obviously it means your bike's gonna weigh a little bit more, but it does mean you get to have a little bit more flexibility with what you bring. Up front, we have the Old Man Mountain Elkhorn rack. This is an awesome rack that you can get from most bike shops. It is essentially a universal rack. It fits on basically any bike out there, and it can be used as a front or rear rack. It also comes with mounts for cargo cages like these, so you can put more bags or really big water bottles on those just to stay hydrated or to have more stuff on you. In the back, we've got an Axiom Streamliner rack. This is a super heavy duty rack that holds a ton of stuff and also looks really sleek. You can get one of these from our accessory page on our website, and it has become my go-to rack for pretty much every bike I've done with a rear rack at this point. Here we've got 2 bottle cages in one. The Sauce only comes with 1 bottle cage mount, but I've used a wolf tooth dual bottle cage mount to make it so I can fit 2 distinct bottle cages on here. You will feel it while pedaling. It's not the end of the world. It's not gonna interrupt your pedal stroke, but it does let you carry 2 water bottles on 1 water bottle mount. But the biggest, most substantial change to this bike is the fact that these wheels are not stock, and these wheels hold a fixed gear sprocket. So there is no coasting on this bike. I will be doing RAGBRAI on a fixed gear bike. It isn't the most recommended thing, but growing up racing track, it's something I just want to do for the challenge. So with that being said, let's load up the bike. This is going to be a little bit of bicycle Tetris to make everything fit, but it's going to be a huge and fun challenge to do. So let's load up the rear rack first. We're going to start with the right pannier, which is basically my sleeping section of the bike. So this is just a 174 pannier rack. It's one of the waterproof ones. There's not a ton of rain in Iowa, but when it does rain, it rains really hard. So waterproofing your stuff is probably the best idea. And this just clips on to the back of the rack, just like that. Super easy. So for the sleeping stuff, I've got a sleeping pad that comes with a pillow built into it. You just pump this thing up by stepping on it. You don't have to blow anything onto it. These are pretty much essential when you have a tent set up, just for something to lie on. And this just drops right in. This is going to be a camping blanket. It doesn't get too warm, but also isn't going to keep you too cold in case the temperature does drop in the middle of the night. And again, everything is just dropping into the pannier. This is just an Arc'teryx thermal hoodie. In case it does get a little bit cold at night, for example, in a rainstorm or something like that, having something just to wrap around you is going to help keep you warm and comfortable throughout the night. And lastly, the one thing I do like to have is I like to have a pair of shoes I can change into after I've been pedaling all day. And these are just a pair of Hey Dude slippers. They're pretty inexpensive and they're super lightweight. You just slip them on and walk around and you don't have to worry about anything. This is everything I'm gonna be using once my tent is set up, and it's just gonna go into this and it's easily sewed away. And all we have to do is roll it up and clip it up. And that's done. I won't have to worry about this bag until the evening. So next, we're doubling up on the 174 Hudson waterproof panniers. We're gonna just clip this bad boy on like we did the last one. And what's going in here is actually not a ton. We don't need to overload panniers. We don't need to overload anything. If you overload stuff, it's just gonna be harder to pedal. So what I'm putting in here is very quick changes of clothes. This is gonna be different jackets, different gloves, thermal sleeves, stuff like that. So first up, I've got a rain jacket. This is just a cycling rain jacket from 100%. This thing is almost waterproof. Nothing is truly waterproof, but this thing has been through some pretty torrential downpours and I was still dry on the underneath. So this is something that with those thunderstorms in Iowa, if they do pop up, you want to have something to just keep you protected from the rain. So again, with panniers, I'm just dropping everything in. This is a Patagonia wind jacket. You basically roll it up into the hood. It's not going to be something I'm anticipating on using, but if we do get a really windy day, especially before or after a rainstorm, it's just something to keep over you, to keep you from getting a little bit chilly and just a little bit more comfortable while you're riding. The other thing I'll be bringing is a glasses case with sunglasses, and also for me, I'll be carrying contact lenses and my actual glasses here. For me, riding in the sun all day, I would rather be wearing contact lenses with some type of sunglasses. But if anything happens, I get something in my eye, I need to take those contacts out, I would want to see, so I'll have glasses there. You will obviously have a varying case on this if you have to ride with glasses or you have to ride with sunglasses. Keep them in a protected case so you don't lose them and or break them on the ride. And finally, I've got 2 pairs of gloves and a UV protection kit. I do 2 pairs because sometimes I like to have full fingers on and sometimes I like to do the fingerless. It's really just kind of how I feel during the day. Sometimes it's more comfortable to wear one than the other, and they don't weigh a ton, so you just have them with you and pop them in a bag for when you need them. This is a UV sleeve. These things were lifesavers the last time I did RAGBRAI. They look like something you would wear in the wintertime, but these are actually made for the summer. What they do is you put them on and they protect you from the sun, but the added benefit is if you jump into a pool or a lake and get these wet, they will keep your arms cool as you're riding and they dry out. So these are super recommended. I would not forego sunscreen for these. You would definitely want to put sunscreen under these, but these are awesome pieces of kit to have with you just to keep you cool and to keep your arms protected. And again, they roll up like a pair of socks, drop them in, who cares? And this is going to be a frame bag that's just going to go in here. This is from Swift Industries. They make an awesome selection of bags, basically any type of bag you can imagine they make. And this fits perfectly into this top part of the frame. And I'm basically just gonna put tools and stuff I'm gonna need pretty quickly on the bike. So let's get this popped on with some of the Velcro straps. So the one thing I learned last year about doing RAGBRAI is just everything gets tossed around so quickly that compartmentalizing everything, so just these small, teeny tiny little bags to put things in. Like for example, this is just my hygiene bag. So I've got tiny toothpaste, tiny toothbrush, deodorant, and a little bit of like chapstick. My lips get really chapped when I ride for a really long time, so I like to take care of that. I'm just gonna throw all of these in this little bag. You can get these at any pharmacy. They're basically travel hygiene bags. And this is gonna go in the big compartment here. We're just gonna stuff that right in there. Same thing with compartmentalizing goes for my repair kit. So this little green guru bag, which is made out of recycled inner tubes, is gonna hold my multi-tool. I've got one pump here that I'll throw in there. And then I've got tire levers and a 15mm wrench that I'm gonna just put in, zip up, pop that in. So the one thing about multi-tools and smaller compact pumps are they're great for being compact, but we do have a lot of space here that we can utilize. So I actually do recommend sometimes just bringing a full Allen key set to fix anything on your bike, because sometimes just that little guy, if you're trying to wiggle it into the weird spot on your bike, it's just kind of a pain. For example, if you need to replace a bolt on your water bottle cage, having an actual Allen key versus a multi-tool will save you a lot of sanity, but also having the multi-tool on you just to do something quick is also great. So doubling up never hurts, especially if you're kind of in a hurry trying to get stuff together and it's like, which place did I put that in? Having multiple tools that don't weigh a whole lot can be a huge benefit. So we're just gonna toss that one in there. I'm also gonna carry another 15mm that's small for people who may have solid axles on the side of the road that just need something tightened up. It happens a lot in RAGBRAI where you just see people on the side of the road and you can stop and say, hey, what do you need? And if it's like, my derailleur exploded, well, can't do much, but it's like, my wheel slipped. All right, well, I got you. On top of that, I've got a much bigger pump in case I do need to fill up a tire completely. I use the little pump in case I've got like a tubeless leak or something like that, but these work really, really well for like fixing full flats. And then most importantly, the most important thing to have on RAGBRAI is zip ties. Just small zip ties that will hold anything together that's falling off your bike or anything like that. I think last year I used 3 total zip ties on 3 people's separate bikes that needed help. So it's always important to have these guys. And all of these can just go into the reverse packet here. It's a little bit smaller, but it holds everything. We'll zip these guys up and we're good to go. Now, moving down on the frame, we're gonna put this Apidura down tube bag on the bottom of the bike. Now, this is a bag you don't typically use all the time, but when you're doing something like this and you just need weird places to put stuff, it comes in super handy. And this is what I just store inner tubes and tubeless repair kits in. The easiest way to install these on the bike is actually to put everything in first. So I'm just gonna throw some inner tubes in to start off. Get them nice and compact down there. I've got 2 for just in case. The one nice thing about a ride like RAGBRAI is every stopover town will have some type of bike shop tent, so that if I, for some reason, ran out of inner tubes or had something I really needed to fix, there is going to be somewhere with someone who can fix it. I can get a tube from them, or I can get a tire or something like that that will keep me going for the ride. So this is all precautionary to get me going from the side of the road, but in the event that I really do need something, I don't need to pack 100 tubes just to keep the ride going. On top of all that, I've got a muck-off tubeless plug kit that just goes in here. Here's the second part. And then I also have found on so many rides, just a little bit of electrical tape, especially if it's something that a zip tie won't hold down, can go a long way. So it's just something that fits perfectly in there. And we're just gonna roll that up and buckle it. And now it goes on the bottom of the bike. And then obviously, super straightforward, super essential, just 2 regular, 20-ounce water bottles. One goes in here, one goes in there. So I think a lot of people, when they see this setup with the frame bag, the water bottle cages sticking out to the side, and then the down tube bag, they're like, isn't stuff running up against each other? And the answer is yes. Some stuff will run up against each other, but this is not really an issue. You don't feel it. These you don't feel unless you're really standing up and pedaling on the bike, and even then it's just brushing up against your legs. It's not something that's going to interrupt your pedal stroke. And this will sometimes shift and jostle and maybe run into the belt, but it's one of those things, it usually sets itself to where it needs to be and you don't have to worry about it. I've never had an issue on this bike or any bike with this type of setup where these things got in the way. You definitely notice they're there, but it's not something that is going to impact the ride at all. And then I've got a navigation computer. This is just a Wahoo Element Roam. I've had this for so many years at this point. You don't need a GPS for RAGBRAI. You will just see the bicyclists going by and you will just follow them. You will have the routes available to you now on their website, but it's just one of those things. It's nice to track and just see how far you went, how fast you went, how much longer is there in the day. Again, a non-essential, but kind of a nice thing to have. And this just goes right onto the handlebar. So next up, I've got my tent. Now this is not a bike packing tent. This is just your regular run-of-the-mill camping tent. It's a 1-person tent. Bike packing tents are awesome. They're super compact, they're super lightweight. One issue with them is they're super expensive. So if you're getting into this in the first time and you're not sure if you're gonna wanna do it, if you have a rack that can hold this, this is the way to go. These tents usually go from anywhere from $80 to $150, where bike packing tents, honestly, they often get up to $300 or more because of how lightweight they are. So this is a great beginner tent and it's super comfortable. And we're just gonna strap this to the front rack, pretty simply. So I'm just gonna secure these with these little rubber straps from Salsa. You can get these straps basically anywhere from any bike shop. They're super handy. You just kind of tighten them down and then throw the strap through the loop that's on there. And I've just looped them through the rack. And there's one. We're just gonna put 2 more on here, one in the front, one in the middle. The last bag I'm gonna put on here is gonna be my Apidura front roll bag. This is an awesome bag that comes with a little front loading accessory mount. And this is where I'm gonna store all my clothes. Now I haven't shown you my clothes because this is where it gets really personal. I'm gonna be riding with bib shorts and that's not for everyone. And some people are gonna like to wear cotton. Some people wanna wear more athletic apparel and stuff like that. So work with what's best for you. My suggestion, I think, really just comes down to socks and underwear or bibs. I would say, depending on whether you're gonna be showering regularly or you'll have a place to stay that has a shower, will determine how much you bring. My rule of thumb is that a good pair of athletic shorts should last you most of the week if you're wearing a bib short underneath and keeping it clean. So that's kind of the rule of thumb here. Just bring what feels right, and you'll always have a chance to wash it off somewhere. And the one thing we want to do with any of these types of bags, we want to make sure we're not pinching or crimping any type of brake line or brake cable, just so we don't impact that type of performance on the bike. So just make sure where you're mounting it isn't doing that. One of the #1 things I recommend to people to bring is baby wipes. You certainly don't need one this big. You can go to any pharmacy and get a smaller version, but this was just available and it's just something nice to have. This over chamois cream will keep all the sensitive areas feeling a lot better. And also if you end up doing something like the gravel days and you don't have access to a shower, just taking one out and just wiping the dirt off of your arms and your legs will make you feel so much better when you go to bed. I can't stress how useful these things are. Just make sure you have a way to dispose of them at the end of every day. So if you need to put it in a bag like this, do it, or bring Ziploc bags if you need to use it hygienically. But these are a lifesaver, and I just put these right in here. The other 2 things I'm gonna bring is a bottle of sunscreen. This will not be the only bottle of sunscreen I use. It's just one that I'll have with me to start out, and I'll continue to get more and more as the ride goes along. You'll run into a ton of places that you can get sunscreen at, either for free or pretty cheaply. Casey's is an awesome resource as long as you can deal with the lines in Casey's. And then obviously I bring a first aid kit just in case. It's not for bike crashes or anything like that, but anything can happen. You can be walking in the lakes and stuff like that, cut yourself on a rock or anything like that. Having something like this just to cover up anything, any scrapes, bruises, cuts, anything like that, super helpful to have. At least one person, if you're in a group, should have one of these, but it's definitely not necessary as there is support vehicles that can help you out with that. But I like to come prepared. Depending on your situation, whether you're camping or staying in a hotel or whatever, you may have more or less access to outlets. But this is where battery banks come into play. And I guarantee you, someone will come up to you and say, do you have a way to charge an iPhone? I do. I carry 2 20,000 milliamp batteries and a 40,000 milliamp hour battery. This one also has a light on it, so at the end of the night when you're getting stuff ready in your tent, this is great to have just to shine around. And I put all of these into another green guru bag with all my charging cables. So I do an iPhone cable, USB-C, and micro USB, because someone in the group will forget all of their cables and all of their batteries, and they're gonna need it, so I always bring spares. Lastly, to load up, I'm gonna do 2 oversized bottles for extra hydration. This is just a regular oversized Camelback hiking water bottle, and this is a Hydro Flask insulated bottle. These are really great for when you find super cold water. Just fill this up, and then you can pour more of that into your water bottles to drink. Having cold water on really hot days goes so far. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna load these on with the similar cargo straps that we put our tent on with. These are just a shorter version of them, and we're just gonna strap it down onto the cargo cage. And we're not gonna use these all the time throughout the day, so they don't need to be the most accessible, but it's still good to have them ready to go. And the final touches I've got are just these little clip-on lights that will attach to the bags through these little slots. You just pop them on right there. I've got one for the rear, and that'll just go on to another little slot. Super easy. And you just turn those on. You're not gonna be riding a lot when it's dark out at RAGBRAI, but having a little bit of extra visibility isn't a bad thing. So if you have some little clip-on lights, it doesn't hurt to bring them. It is another thing to charge, but at the end of the day, safety is never a problem. The last little thing that I would say is a maybe you need, maybe you don't, is snacks. So you can bring little snacks. You can do something like this, like candy and stuff like that, or you can do Cliff Bars or anything like that. Make sure they're pretty accessible, but the one thing about RAGBRAI is there's so many places to stop, you may not need to carry snacks with you. Some of this stuff will be on the side of the road and will be free or donation-based or at a small charge. And a lot of the stopover towns will have things like PB&Js, smoothies, and stuff like that. So you will be fed and hydrated throughout the day. But if there are any type of special foods that you need to have with you for sugar or for anything like that, it's always good to have some type of bag dedicated to snacks that you can use to pull out snacks and eat while you're riding or when you pull over on the side of the road. And as you've probably noticed, we've put this bike into a bike stand. This bike is typically a pretty light bike, but with everything on it, it's very heavy. And it's going to be a challenge to get this bike up a hill, especially since it's a fixed gear, single speed bike. And I think that goes to what I think the main focus of this is. You do not have to set your bike up like this. You can set your bike up any way you want. If you have a road bike, you would rather just have a saddlebag and maybe a handlebar bag with just a flat repair kit, that's perfect. That will get you through RAGBRAI. There are ways to get through RAGBRAI doing that. If you want to do a more tighter bike packing setup, something like I did last year, where I just had a saddlebag and this front roll bag with my tent just strapped to it, that works too. You don't have to have racks, you don't have to have panniers, you don't need cargo cages, you don't need double bottle cages. This is just a super robust, everything I could possibly need on RAGBRAI setup. You can do as little as much as you prefer. My number one suggestion is find a setup you think works really great and go out on a long ride with that setup and see if you use everything and see what you don't use. Because if you can cut weight here and there, that's going to save you a lot of energy in the long run and give you a better overall experience. If you have any other questions about Priority Bicycles, the bikes we make, or the accessories we offer, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to our customer service team. We're available every day of the year, and the information for that is posted on your screen right now. For more information about RAGBRAI, please visit their website for the route and all the other events going on surrounding the week-long event. That will be linked down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate you taking the time to follow me along with my little bike tour here, and we will see you in Iowa.